Well, despite the fact that many people believe Dustin Hoffman will win an Academy Award for his portrayal in the current Kramer versus Kramer, I think in most people's minds he's still The Graduate, or the boy adopted by the Indians in Little Big Man, or Lenny Bruce in Lenny, the man on the run in Marathon Man, or Ratso Rizzo in Midnight Cowboy. Dustin Hoffman is a very serious, intense actor who takes his career very seriously and has some fascinating recollections about those parts we've just mentioned and for which we most remember him. I wonder what you think of when you think of Dustin Hoffman, the actor. Did any role come to your mind that you really identify with?
No, I don't feel that I've yet done that which I want to do.
Really?
And I guess it really has to do with being closer to being a painter or a writer or someone who really creates it rather than interprets something else that someone wrote.
You're a big star. You could do whatever you want, and I'm sure you'd turn down 10 times what you take. Why don't you do what you want to do?
Well, maybe I lack the talent. I don't know how to, in the sense that I'm not a writer. If I knew how to write, let's say like Woody Allen, I'm not judging the standard of excellence, but if I could write my own material, I would work more often and probably be closer to what I ultimately would like to do.
Now that's amazing to me to hear you say that, because, and I'm sure most of the people watching, because they perceive Dustin Hoffman, wow, big star, do what he wants, he's got it made, his life is perfect for him, and yet you're telling us that there are things you still haven't done yet. That's an interesting...
Well, you know, I've always liked to read biographies of artists or even autobiographies, and it seems to be the rule of thumb. Tolstoy hated War and Peace. Gogol wrote a sequel to the thing that made him famous, which was Dead Souls, and tore it up as soon as he finished it. Baryshnikov said in a recent interview that he's had maybe 2 or 3 brief moments that he felt were pure in all of his dancing.
Well, does it bug you to talk about The Graduate? Forgive me for interrupting you, but I mean, does it bug you that you're still dated by something you did how many years ago now?
The Graduate was 1967.
So that's 13 years ago. I know some actors say, please, you know, that was 13 years ago. I've done so much since, and what I'm doing now is relevant. But, you know, you are trapped in those moments of movies for millions of people. It's not bad.
I like The Graduate. I mean, I've seen it recently, and I think it holds up. I feel proud of it. And I think it's one of the most satisfying experiences I've had in terms of acting that I've done in films. So I don't feel that.
That made you a star overnight, as they would say, in the business.
It's an interesting feeling to be someone who, you know, who studied the amount of time that actors study for whatever years I did, for 10 or more years before I did The Graduate, and to have something like that that was so powerfully a part of my life in such a short time. It just altered my life. And to this day, I don't escape it because it seems to be everywhere. It's on elevators, the sounds of silence. It's in the restaurant. I don't think a week goes by where I don't hear one of the songs from it, or even Cowboy for that matter. And
yet I read that you didn't work for a year after that you were taking unemployment checks after The Graduate, and after you'd become an international celebrity. Is that true?
Yeah, I asked that I be a free agent after I did The Graduate, or I didn't want to do it because I had had difficult experiences off Broadway, and I felt if I wasn't close to the material, then I didn't want to be forced to make films that I didn't agree to do. So after The Graduate was over, I wasn't committed to do anything else, and the scripts that came in I felt were carbon copies of The Graduate, and I just have always wanted to work only when I feel close to the material.
Now, is The Graduate one of those stories, I want to ask you how much you got paid for The Graduate. I won't be that indelicate, but is it one of those roles where it made somebody and you didn't make much money to do it?
Oh, I don't mind saying what I got paid, because when they wanted to sign me the contract, they wanted to pay me more money if I would be under option, and I said, pay me, I'll do it for free. I was making $100 a week off Broadway, so I've been able to live on that for 10 years, and even less than that. So I was paid $750 a week gross, and I paid my own hotel and rented car out of that in Los Angeles and kept my apartment going in New York. I remember I banked about $3,000, $3,200 after I paid my agent, and I was So I had money to live on, because I lived on $3,000 a year at that time.
So you cleared about $3,000 for
A year's,
the role.
living.
But that was a well-earned $3,000 for what it did for you. Then your next role was Ratso Rizzo, Midnight Cowboy. It just dawned on me, maybe you lived or you knew the life of Ratso very well, having been in New York and living and working there. It's a strange and wonderful city.
You know, if tomorrow, let's say, no, I was not as recognizable as I am today, or maybe with just a few alterations, I could go back to being a waiter in some of the diners I was a waiter in, or a dishwasher, and could just relive that immediately. We are not treated differently because of what we are. We're treated differently by what we appear to be. And that was the point of that character. I never felt that that character was any different from me, except by his outward appearances.
Listen, before we go, I've got to show you his shoes so that you don't think he's totally the establishment man. Can we pan down to Dustin's shoes? Were you jogging this morning?
No, actually, we never know what guides us, but these shoes were given to me by someone off the street while we were shooting Kramer.
Really?
And I've not taken them off since.
Was it good luck?
No, it's been good luck so far. I think it's...
Will you wear them if you get an Oscar for the role? I'd like to get a commitment now. We'd like to look for that.
I looked at them the other day, and I feel that they may have about 3 months left, so I don't.
Okay.
I think they'll disintegrate before Oscar time.
I got to ask you one last thing. I read in some notes about this movie that that imply that you think you're funny looking. First of all, do you think you're funny looking? Is that a true reporting of what you said?
Funny looking. Yes, funny looking. Yes.
Why do you think you're funny looking? You look pretty ordinary to me.
I think ordinary people are funny looking.
Well, they are.
I think that the trouble with the myth of the American film star is that they have not represented the American public. I think that we are all funny looking.
Thanks very much.
Well, thank you.
We'll be right back.